Good evening, it's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. Yes guys, I know it's been about 4 days since I last done an upload, but I haven't been wasting the time. I've been actually getting my head down and doing a bit of work for the observatory. Obviously we want to get these muon detectors out now, and we've got to make an enclosure for them, and this has been our recent purchase here, this 3D printer. Big learning curve already with this. That's why, you know, I've been quiet for the last few days. I've been trying to get my head round these 3D CAD programs. So what I've designed is just the housing at the moment for the muon detector, this over here. We're going to take the screen off, solder some wires on there. We're going to put a reset button on there. We're going to put a lead in the back, and obviously, as you can see in the enclosure at the front, we've got a hole here for the LED to go in there, and a screen has been cut away so that we can you know, fit the screen into the housing properly. I'll just quickly show you around it. It looks very simple. I know I went for perhaps what some people would consider unnecessary detail on this with the maverickstar logo on the front, but you know, it's just getting my head round all this CAD program. And of course, one of the things I learned is that this program, although it is easy to use for me for doing 3D designs and stuff like that, it's not completely user-friendly with every 3D printer. So I had to buy not only the 3D printer, which isn't the dearest one on the market, but the nice thing about this is it's got a very tall gantry, so I can print up to about 420 by 320 by 320 on the bottom of the base plate. That was just the filament I had left over. Well, it actually came with the printer, just a little spool of 7.5 mil. But that's the actual spool, that's the actual printer filament that comes off, and that comes off at 0.4 mil. So the injector underneath, or the printhead head, is actually 0.4 millimeters, so very small. So I've been getting my head around this. I want to show you a little bit more of this, and I'll also talk about something really important in the second half of this video. It's going to answer a lot of questions for you guys with regards to COVID-19. These are the questions that I guarantee you would want to have the answers to, and I've got those for you. So there's been a bit of research over the last few days with viruses, immune systems, and also what they're called vaccines and things like that. So we'll get into that in a bit, but before we go any further, I've got to shout out to a few people: Doug, Jen, Bob, Kathy, for your continuous support for the observatory, and Susan in San Francisco. And absolutely, let's wear the full armour of God at these times, and, you know, just bless everybody out there in these dreadful times, because they are. I mean, we've lost now worldwide over 100,000 people. It's absolutely incredible. Okay, so back to what we're doing at the observatory. This 3D printer was very much needed for a lot of reasons. First of all, we can design better magnetometer housings. We can design, as we have done, the muon detector housings, and we can also now finish off the cloud generator. And the reason why we're going to finish the cloud generator off is that we can see, not only when we count the muons and we know that there's collisions in the upper atmosphere, we can also see them with the cloud chamber. This will show us alpha, beta, gamma particles going through this little square environment. We're going to 3D print all the components for this. Now, as you guys know, this 3D printer bed is not big enough to print it all in one go, so we're going to split it down to 4 or maybe 6 components for the main base, but we're going to easily be able to print all the other parts that hold all these Peltier elements together. We've already hit the target with this, so I think we broke the back on the project, which meant that we got the required minus temperature that we needed. That was, we was getting about -35, and we only need -27 to condense ethylene, not ethylene glycol, gosh, this stuff here, isopropyl. No, not this one. Let me get the right one. This one here. So isopropyl alcohol. So it's almost pure alcohol basically. And what we do is we put that in the environment of the cloud chamber. It causes a vapour which allows us to see the traces of different subatomic particles like muons, gamma, alpha, beta radiation particles going through there. We'll be able to see all that, and it will be nice because we just flick a switch and we can get the visual straight away, as opposed to, you know, ordering dry ice every time we want to do an inspection. And we will see firsthand what is coming through our natural environment. Now, the last reading I done with the muons, we was at 560 muon counts per square metre per hour. That's quite a lot. If you think about it, you're standing up on a square patch. We've got right now 560 muons passing through our body, as well as other elementary particles, like neutrinos. They fly straight through us, straight through the crust of the Earth, straight out the other side of the Earth. Nothing stops neutrinos. But, you know, you get to see them in a cloud chamber. It really shows us the nature of the subatomic particles that are taking place in our environment at any given place. So, it's been a big learning curve. I'm having to teach myself 3D CAD design, and I found this Meta Control, nice simple free program you can download. It does, there's two parts to this. You have to have a slicer. A slicer is the bit that transfers it from CAD design into machine code so that this machine can print it off. Don't know how familiar you guys are with 3D printers. I'm still in the learning curve, but I'm just waiting, really impatiently now for the filament to come, and you can see firsthand when I start printing off these things for the observatory. I'll do a video and you'll see how these 3D printers work, and they're quite amazing, really. I mean, if you love robotics, you'll love all this stuff. And I might even take the little camera off on the quadcopter here and set it to time lapse, so you'll see it being built real time, or not real time, but in time lapse, because no one wants to sit here, because it's telling me already when I put this into the other program, which I'm going to show you in a minute. It's telling me that it's going to about 4 hours for this one, I think it is, and for the Collage of silver generators, I've designed a whole lid. I'll just show you that. So you need this program to design your stuff in, which is a CAD program. Let me just show you around what I've designed there. I know I'm recording the screen print, you can see me in the background. It's hollow underneath. Obviously it's like an Easter egg really, which is strange because of the time we're in is around about Easter. But yeah, you need this program to design your stuff in. I found this one, Meta Control, very easy. It was free, but I needed a slicer program that was compatible with this G-Tech A330 Pro. And this was the program that I managed to find that was in some sort of realm supporting the 3D printer. And that's just what it's done here. If I just zoom in, you can see that this is the component that we've designed in the other program. We've just put it into this program. This is the slicer program, and it's a great program. I'll tell you why. Because we can go straight into print preview and we can watch it build it if we want to, which is a unique aspect about this program. This program cost me 127 sterling. So it gives you an idea of how much, these things cost. Let me just zoom out a little bit so you can see what's actually happening. Okay, so let me do, I realise what I've done here. So let me just exit that. What we need to do is, I can't do it actually, can't show you. It's joined the two programs together, but the nice thing about it is when you watch print preview is you can see what's going to come off at the end of the print. I've got two jobs on there which have overlaid each other, and that's because I wanted to show you each of them. individually I'll show you. Obviously the first one is the muon detector housing and the base, which has been overlaid by the other one, but let me remove that and I'll show you individually. So if I take that one off, so these are the new housings that I've also designed for the muon detectors. As you can see, they're just a hollow box, but what that does is enable me to put the pump, the voltage regulator and the silver electrodes, those things there, all in a casing. And you can see I've also designed a little lid here to go on the top, and it's just a little bit more professional. But trust me, you know, getting your head around these things for the first time is a bit difficult, but I'm slowly getting there. But I'll show you the results of this, guys. I'm sure you're going to be interested in all this new stuff that we've got going on here at the observatory, and it's just going to improve you know, our abilities when we're building prototypes to have, you know, the ability of being able to 3D print whatever we want. There's going to be a lot of different parts to the cloud chamber that have got to be built. First of all, we've got to build something to hold the Peltier array together onto, as you can see, the water block on the bottom. And then there's the whole unit that gets bolted together. We've got two power packs, we've got a radiator system which runs 3 fans. So there's a lot of different components for this. But we're now having this is going to be able to, you know, make it look a little bit more professional, and you know, we're doing things a little bit more than just, you know, with what we've been doing before out of wood and things. It's just going to be that much more better and easier in the long run. There's going to be a lot of work with CAD programs and things like that, but you know, that's where we are. So yeah, we still really need to get these out to we need someone to come forward from Brazil to take this on. We've got one of the two that are ready to go out working. I've got to do a bit of work on the other one. I know it's just the screen I've got to change, so I'm not really bothered about that. When I do get round to you know, building the muon detector housings, I just want to get that up and take that one off. These little babies here, once we get round to building these, you know, I'll put the screen on and we should have 2 ready to go out. We've got 4 magnetometers ready to go out. 2 will be going out with the muon detectors, and we've got another one hopefully that is going to go out to Bali, and you know, there's another one for somewhere else, maybe Canada. So if you're interested in any of those, give me a shout. Let me just briefly touch on something else that's been going on at the observatory. Obviously we're building caudal generators, these things here, and they do this, I've got to say guys, is excellent at doing what it's supposed to do. Now I have to have a bit of a disclaimer, but before I do, I just want to say I posted 5 of these out last week. I'm posting another one out tomorrow. I'm waiting, because I know there's another 4 of you that ordered them. I'm waiting for the parts to come in over the next day or 2. Let's say by the end of Friday they should all be here, hopefully. There has been a bit of slight delay in some of the postage. That's been affected obviously as a reason of COVID-19. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But yeah, guys, don't worry. I said there was probably a 2-week you know, delay in getting them out to you. If we get all the parts in, the silver, the containers, the motors, the regulators, we'll have that out to you by hopefully the end of, not this week, next week. So I know all those that ordered earlier on have got theirs. I've ordered at least enough to build 2 extra on top of the ones that have got ordered already. So in total we've had an order for 10. We've got the 6 built. There's another 4 waiting to go. That would be in the second batch, and we can also build another 2. So it's a total of 12. If you're interested in a Clydrol silver generator, I really don't know why you wouldn't be. It's £80 plus postage and packaging. You know, drop it down in the PayPal and a note, obviously telling me that it is for a Clydra generator. You're not just making an £80 donation, and I'll be able to build you one of those in the coming weeks. Like I say, I don't know why you wouldn't want one, because I've got to be careful what I say here about these. Just do your research, and at this time, with this virus going round, I don't know why you would not want this insurance policy, even if it's just for a bit of peace of mind. I really don't know why you wouldn't want it. Me and my partner are drinking. Okay, I know some people don't like me using that term, because someone says to me, "Are you gay?" Obviously, I'm not. I'm married to my wife, and I'm not gay. But a little bit of a sidetrack there. But the point is this: is that we're drinking this, and as far as we know, we haven't contracted COVID-19. This could be something that prevents it. But more importantly, we know that Clydra silver does attack viruses. More to the point, silver ions destroy viruses. And, you know, if you have a lot of these COVID-19 viruses in your body that have been destroyed, then your immune system can then program itself to combat not just dead viruses, but live viruses. So, like I say, I don't know why you wouldn't want to have one of those at this time. Okay, so we've got a lot going on at the observatory. There's a bit of work to do on the website this week. We're going to put up on now regular muon detections, weekly numbers, so you know those will change. I mean, they fluctuate between 500 and 600, maybe a little bit more some weeks and more than others, but we're going to add that to the website. We're also obviously working on building the casings that I've already showed you. Okay, so I've done that bit of the video, guys. Obviously I know a lot of you just tuning for pole shift news stuff. That really is it. If you want to help us at the observatory, links down there. If you want one of these Clydra generators, link is down there. Just use the same one, the PayPal one. If you want to become one of our patrons, then the link is there as well. And you know what, guys, just think about it. At this time that we're at right now, as you can imagine, support is dropping off for a lot of YouTube channels, but the difference between our channel and others is that we provide solutions. I hope you realise that. And not only that, we don't just talk about these things, we actually build them. Okay, now I've got something really important for you other guys that are interested in what's going on. It's taking up a lot of our time, and it's equally very important. So let's get on with that part of the video. So, okay, the second part of this video is about what is probably on everybody's mind right now, and I'm going to try and answer some of those questions that you probably have burning away at the back of your mind. What is the amount of people that have been dying with COVID-19 outside of the hospitals? Because we know here in the UK, and they told us tonight in the briefing and the news, that they are following suit with all other European countries. There is a trend to only account for those that die in hospitals and elsewhere. However, they did mention that the statistics could be on the government-owned website, which is the ONS report. If you want to go and have a look at that yourselves, you're going to find this data that's been collected. Obviously, it goes up to week 13. Which is around about the March the 29th or the 27th of March, as they've said here. And you'll find that the actual figure is more than double than what they're recording. So, you know, if you see today, like there has been announced 11,340 to date here in the UK die, the number is probably closer to around twice that amount. And if you just look at the amount of people here that have died in the hospitals, it's 5,105 up to the 27th of March. The reason why it isn't up to date is because it takes time for the death registers to come into the government ONS report, and they can then publish them. So there's probably a 2 to 3 week delay in the data. But what we can say here is there is a number that the government haven't shared with each of us, and that is the number of people that are dying outside of hospitals. And up until the 27th of March, if we just add all these to what the government is saying, you'll see that it's not 11,340 if we just use the data that they've given us up until the 27th of March and not the other 3 weeks that have happened to the present day. It is around about 17,000 people that have died of COVID-19. The other thing is, it is being left to the doctor's discretion at the time of death to diagnose what he feels has been the cause of death. And in a lot of cases, they are not diagnosing, even if it is the case, COVID-19. They're diagnosing influenza or pneumonia, other respiratory illnesses. So it's down to the discretion of the doctor what he wants to call it at that point in time. So there is even going to be a bigger number of people as a result of doctor's discretion not being added to the numbers of total deaths. But what I will say this is, if we look at care homes, you can see the number yourself, guys. 2,489 people on top of the number of 5,105 people that have died that the government have told us about. They didn't tell us about the 2,489 here in the UK, or it will be the same for Italy and elsewhere. But what this gives us is an ability to just say, look, if you want, for argument's sake, you can add up home, hospice, care home, other communal establishments elsewhere. You will see, if you just add those up and not the hospital deaths, it comes to 6,036, which is more than what has died in the hospitals. And they've been very, very cagey with the way that they describe this chart, because it says that the majority of COVID-19 deaths occurred within hospitals. Well, that is the largest number of where the deaths have occurred. But if you total the other people dying in their own homes, in care homes, the number is actually 6,036. And these are the numbers that they're not telling us in the news bulletins when they give us the latest information on that. So if it's at 11,340, if you want to, just for argument's sake, double that number, you get a more accurate number of how many people are dying. Now, there's a lot going on, guys, which is not good. First of all, we're putting frontline workers like doctors and nurses in a position where they're risking their lives because there isn't PPE, personal protection equipment, available for them. And we had here in the UK one doctor 4 or 5 weeks ago, who is now passed away sadly, send a letter to the government telling them that he was concerned that the level of PPE was not up to where it should be, and that they should not be expected to put themselves at harm's way for a multitude of reasons. First of all, for their personal well-being and safety. As an employer, nobody should put an employee at risk, and as well for other reasons, which I could mention and go on about it, but it was just terrible that guy has passed away now. That doctor passed away. There's been doctors pass away, nurses pass away, not just here in the UK, and there are numbers of people that are passing away that aren't even being recorded and being brought to the public's awareness. On top of that, guys, the government have had 300,000 applications from businesses, small businesses, for support that the government promised they'd give, and they have to date only delivered 4,300 packages to help just 4,300 companies, when there's been 300,000 applications. You just get the feeling that this has overwhelmed the government, and they're not even testing anybody. I mean, they've told us it could be another 3 weeks now of lockdown. I think, and the government have been accused already by, people of not acting swiftly enough when they had, weeks advance of what was happening in Italy, for instance, and they knew it was going to happen here in the UK, but they failed to act. They failed to make sure that there was PPE equipment for frontline staff. We shouldn't be putting them at risk, as far as I'm concerned. They should have got testing equipment out, not just for frontline staff, but for also the general public. You know, if they want us to go back to work, then the first thing they need to do is make sure we all get tested so that we can find out if we've got the antibodies in ourselves, if we've had it. If we have, well, then we're good to go back to work, you know, and get this country back up online. But they're not doing that. And they sort of like, at the beginning of this, because they was overwhelmed with what was going on, with the fact that now we're facing a pandemic and that there's, you know, tens of thousands of people worldwide dying of this, they failed to act when they should have. And as a result of this, they changed their strategy. They went for, first of all, herd immunisation. And the problem is with herd immunisation is you need to get 90% of the herd or the population of your country over COVID-19. And that means, looking at the statistics that we've got, that 12% of that 90% would have died as a result of catching COVID-19. Because if we look at the COVID-19 data, you'll see that here in the UK, we're running around about 12%. 12.7 to be exact. We lost another 717 people in the last 24 hours. It just gives you an idea. But this data is on the government website, but everybody seems to be asking the question, how many is dying elsewhere and how many is dying in the care homes and this, that and the other. But that's the number that the government don't want to, for some reason, come forward and talk about. It's probably because they are so interested in protecting the NHS when they should be also looking after, you know, people in the care homes. We can see that there is a slaughter of people in the care homes, and it isn't just the people that are working in the hospitals that need this protective equipment and measures to protect the people, the residents of these care homes. You know, it is, to say the least, a massive failure. You know, we have really put some trust in the government. We have surrendered our human rights. We've allowed the governments to lock us away in our homes. And at some point, they're probably even going to take the right away from us to have exercise, which will be sad. If that is the case, that means we can only go out for necessity items or to help somebody who's in a crisis themselves. So it's almost like, you know, everything has got to be emergency, 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 and there'll be no allowing us out for exercise even though a lot of us are abiding by, you know, the 2 metre rule, stay away from each other, you know, and so on and so forth. It's just a shame, but you know, at least, you know, you get an idea. I dare say if it's happening in Europe like this, you know, they're recording the numbers of the hospitals only and not the care homes and things like that, then I would presume that this is the same in the United States, Canada and Australia. You know, there is a trend that's been set. And, you know, that's what I wanted to just touch on with you guys. You know, the real number is close to double what the governments are announcing, and this is coming from their own data on their website. This is the British ONS report statistics website, and or the Office of National Statistics. So you can go on there yourself, guys, and get on there and get all the data with relationship to what's going on. But I thought I'd sift through the nitty-gritty for you and just point out what it was that the government was not forthcoming in telling you about. So yeah, they are reporting on less than half the numbers of the deaths, and obviously not willingly coming forward with the true numbers. And this is, you can check it yourselves, this is from the 27th of March. The reason why there's a delay is because the delay in the register of deaths, as soon as they come into the government, then they're able to add them to the statistics. But they won't talk about the other numbers of people dying with COVID-19 from other parts, like their private homes, the care homes, you know, and elsewhere, and so on and so forth. So you get an idea really of the severity of this situation. I just want to, before I end this video, just show you the algorithms, and I will throw in the disclaimers on the algorithms before I end it, but I think it's important because it gives us an idea of what the government strategy is, and whether this is going to go on for a couple of months or even longer. I'm sure you'll want to have a heads up as to how the government are angling it and what that will do with regards to the algorithm. So let's just go through that before we end it, and we'll wrap it up there, guys. But for now, thanks for staying this long with us. Okay. Okay, so these algorithms have been set to 2.8, so that's the R0 number, which is nearly R3. That means that when one person gets the infection, they can pass it on to another 2.8 people. The government reckon they've got the R0 number down, or the R number down to 1, or even below that through the lockdown. So that will change the results. But as you can see, I put us around about day 91, and that is because we've got around about between 21,000 and 32,000 people dead already of the coronavirus. And as you can see, available, let it come back up, there we go, with the available resources, they're inundated, so they haven't got the resources to cope with the people at the moment that are going into hospital, even though the government are saying they have. But I just put the amount of resources, or simply the amount of beds they've got available, even with the new hospitals that they're building over the last few months, with the capacity of another 4,000. I've added that to the resources, and the problem is when the resources run out, the fatality rates go up, and as a result of that, this was suggesting, if I go right down to the bottom, that we'd probably lose around about just under 7 million people at the R number of 2.8, and there obviously was a very, very sharp peak on the new infections, these deaths. And that orange line there represents the amount of deaths. And if we're at 91, you can see, day 91, you can see we're at the very low end of the spectrum of this peak that is supposed to happen. Now, the government have managed to, by entrapping us all in our homes, asking us to stay home, save the NHS, save lives. They will flatten the curve, but what they're not telling people is by flattening the curve, you prolong the period. Because the only way I'm going to explain this to you now, and I've studied biology, so you could say I'm qualified to talk about this. If you flatten the curve, you extend the time. So if you're extending the time, then this lockdown has got to stay locked down for a longer period than what the government are prepared to tell you about. They don't want to come out and tell you that the lockdown could last 3 to 6 months. But by flattening the curve, that is the only other outcome of this scenario. You either get the herd infection going at a short period of time over a space of 5 weeks, or you extend and flatten the curve and the time period. But the inevitable will be the same. Like I said, if they don't come up with a antivirus in the short term, and the thing is, people are dying in the homes because they don't trust the hospitals. No one wants to go in hospital. Have them put oxygen in there for a few days. The symptoms get worse. Then they say to you, you're at there's a specific word for it, where your breathing is tiring, you can't keep up the pace of the effort, and they therefore say, look, we've got to put you in a mild coma so that we can take over your breathing for you. People don't want that, because most of the people that end up going down that route don't recover. You're unconscious, the switch gets flicked off. This is what a majority of people think, like even myself, and you're not making this decisions at that point in time. They're just flicking the switch off, because they are making decisions on, there's a 27-year-old or a 35-year-old, you're in your 50s, there's a more quality of life, the resources are low, that switch is going off tonight, and you're going to be classed as a fatality of COVID-19. And that's why people are dying more in the homes, and obviously care homes are a different scenario. These are weak, elderly, vulnerable people in any case, but if you're going to reduce this curve, obviously there's a different scenario involved now. These algorithms don't take into effect because it's very difficult to know what the R ratio is as a result of self-contaminate, self-isolating, like a lot of us are doing. But the only outcome that can possibly come from that will be an extended time period where we've got to remain in our homes. So yeah, this is another thing that the governments aren't talking about, but this is the strategy that they've chosen, and it is one to save the NHS. Obviously, if over a period of 5 weeks, as we can see where this peak mainly kicks off into action, there'd be an overwhelming of the NHS system or the medical health system, and they just would be killing a lot more people than what they are right now. But what the government have chose to do here in the UK and over a lot of other countries in Europe, America, Canada, Australia and everywhere else is flatten the curve and extend their time. But by doing this, if they do back off from this lockdown, then it's going to encourage another wave of this to come past. What you've got to remember, the main things are the numbers that you've got to concentrate is the total number of infected. And here in the UK, let's just have a quick look at that so we can put this in perspective for you, and then we'll wrap this video up because I don't want to be going on all night about this. There's far better things to do with our time, guys. So if we just go back to COVID-19 and look at the total infected of people in the UK, it's at 89,289 confirmed cases. If we double that, it's 160,000 or thereabouts, and that is still a long way off herd infection. 65 million people in the UK, 90% of those are going to get COVID-19, and then 12% of the 90% are going to die of it. So you can see the numbers are going to be big, and you can either have those numbers if you want to do a lockdown over a prolonged period of time. If you want to do herd immunisation, which is what the government wanted to do here in the UK at the start of this, then you would have got through all this in a shorter space of time just by simply not doing nothing. I was talking to a friend of mine who's built the the algorithms that we was looking at earlier. He built all this for you guys, Andology. He is suffering with some issues at the moment to do with YouTube restricting his information, which is sad. And I'm just very cautious in how much I choose to talk about that, because I don't want to be hit with the same penalisations that he has had on top of the ones that I'm getting already, guys. So I'm having to tread very carefully about the information even that I put out on my channel. And it's sad because we don't live in a day where freedom of speech really exists. But there, I'm going to round it off on that, guys. I'm just going to say, obviously we do a lot more than what you see happening on a lot of other YouTube channels, and I think that warrants a bit of support from you guys. And I know it's a real big effort to whip your credit card out and make a donation, but that's what it requires for us to continue doing it. This is a crowd-funded website and observatory that actually does more than talk. So on that note, guys, I'll just mention that there is a link down there. I think the only other thing to say at the end of this video, and I'm apologising for the length that it's gone on, but we've had to cram in a lot of information, but the only other thing to say is, guys, stay safe, look after your loved ones, make sure you have some form of preparations for whatever you feel you may need over the coming months, and just keep your eyes and ears open. And that's it, guys. I love you all, take care, and as always, bye for now.